Black Ops 6 is coming day one to Game Pass. Not one, but two new Resident Evil remakes are in the works, and Google's AI proves to be a recipe for disaster. I'm Ash Dixon, and this is Jinx News. It's official, everyone! Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is coming to Game Pass day one. It started with a report from the Wall Street Journal last week, and then suddenly people with the Xbox app received a little push notification yesterday confirming the news. Although when you then clicked on it, you were sent to an error page. But fear not, just hours later they dropped a live action reveal trailer, and after all the serious dramatic voice lines from various historic world leaders, the mood is very quickly changed, with some upbeat American dude saying,
"Play it day one with Game Pass."
Now, when the whole Microsoft Activision acquisition was happening, there was a whole ton of concern that COD would be made an Xbox exclusive. Now it's pretty clear that this was the plan the whole time. So while I imagine PS5 players will be relieved that their precious game isn't being taken away, I also still can't help but imagine that Arthur Fist meme as they discover that they still have to pay $70 while Xbox players frolic around in Game Pass bliss. And speaking of the actual trailer, I think it really solidified how interesting a Gulf War era Call of Duty game could be. The series has been pretty ballsy in the past when it comes to historical events, and it seems they're doubling down by including the likes of Bill Clinton, Maggie Thatcher, and Saddam Hussein. Now, admittedly, they are saying all pretty cringy lines like,
"The truth is, your whole life is a lie,"
and
"behind closed doors where we hide the world's secrets."
And don't get me wrong, conspiracy theory vibes can be fun, and I'm all for taking creative liberties on historical events for the sake of entertainment. I just also know there'll be a good chunk of people who will take it as gospel. Also, while it feels like Call of Duty campaigns have fallen off a cliff lately, the Black Ops games have had some absolute bangers, so hopefully this will be a return to form. Now, we dived into how much of a gamble this is for Microsoft last week when the story first broke and why it might actually pay off big time, but on the way to work, I also had to think about how massive this could be for Call of Duty on PC. It's always been a franchise that's completely dominated on consoles. On PC, however, often it's free-to-play games that are king, especially when it comes to shooters. Counter-Strike, Apex, Valorant, Fortnite, yada yada yada. Either way, in the past, I skipped most Call of Duties. You can bet though that from now on, I will be excited to play on day one every single year. And I can bet that's the same for thousands, if not millions. Whether that is enough to justify the gamble though, well, that's where I want your thoughts. Is Call of Duty still the powerhouse it used to be? Is it enough to take Xbox and Game Pass to the next level? Let us know down in the comments. It's fair to say that Capcom has found quite a bit of success by remaking the Resident Evil games, and it looks like that trend isn't ending with the superb Resi 4 remake, as they're apparently developing remakes for both Resident Evil 0 and Code Veronica. Prominent leaker Dusk Golem posted on Twitter to say that the remakes are in development right now. For those who don't follow the convoluted Resi Evil timeline, 0 was a GameCube exclusive prequel to the original game released in 2002 that received decent reviews and sold modestly. Code Veronica, however, fared much better. It's set between the second and third games, released in 2000, and received critical and commercial acclaim. Many consider it their favorite in the series and will certainly be excited if these leaks are true. However, it wasn't all good news from Dusk Golem, as in the same thread he claimed that a follow-up to Resident Evil Village isn't planned anytime soon. He said, "I would wipe the expectations of Resident Evil 9 being announced this summer period." Now, it would be something of a surprise if they weren't working on a new installment of the franchise. Village did pretty well, all in all. Yeah, it wasn't as good as its predecessor, but it had one of the most terrifying moments in video game history, and let's admit, we all wanted to be stepped on by that tall, posh lady. Or maybe that was just me. Either way, the franchise is still very much in the zeitgeist, so even if we won't hear anything from the 9th game for a while, the fact 2 more remakes are on the way can only be a good sign for the future. Cyberpunk 2077's development is finally over. 3.5 years on from the almighty mess of a launch, CD Projekt Red have finished patching up the game, adding handsome characters in the expansions, and have finally left us with the game we have today. Now, I don't need to revisit the whole story behind Cyberpunk 2077. We all know it. The hype, the pandemic, the disastrous launch, the apologies. But fair play to the devs, they have stuck by their word and fixed the mess they created, and now the title is an absolute must for RPG fans. Most of these staff members have moved on to one of two projects: Polaris, which is the next Witcher game, and Orion, a sequel to 2077. They've also confirmed several other projects, including a Witcher 1 remake and another unknown game internally called Projekt Sirius. Which begs the question, when might these games see the light of day? Let's be honest, CDPR really do take their time with their titles. Since the release of the first Witcher game back in 2007, they've only released 4 mainline games along with several expansions in like 17 years. Now, I've got no problem with devs taking their time to make sure their games are released in a good state. However, at some point you do actually have to release something to start earning some money to pay back the staff who, you know, have been putting in the hard work. And the execs at CDPR know this too. During an earnings call this week, CEO Mikhail Novakovsky said, "You can definitely expect us to release more titles, and the cadence of launches is something we definitely plan to increase." So here's hoping they can stick to that promise, whilst at the same time avoiding another Cyberpunk release disaster, though let's be honest, some of those memes were pretty good. Time for a super speedy quick fire round, because the internet has killed our attention spans, and by God, I am not in the emotional headspace for you to leave me right now. Majora's Mask just got an unofficial PC port, so now you can play the gloomiest, moodiest Zelda with HD graphics, high FPS, and glorious widescreen resolution. The incredible work is by the fan team Harbor Masters, and for the love of God, no one tell Nintendo. Next up, Star Citizen has now raised an insane $700 million, and no, there's still no release date in sight. It's kind of crazy. You have these backers who clearly haven't heard of the sunken cost fallacy, and these developers who keep just making the game bigger and bigger with their unprecedented access to cash. There were a couple of Reddit comments that I thought summarized the situation though. One person said, "What is Star Citizen now anyways? Is it a game, an idea, a set of games in the same universe? I honestly don't know." To which someone else replied, "Star Citizen is the friends we made along the way." And finally, Google's AI thinks you should add glue to make pizza.
It's a bit of a sticky one still.
Basically, if you ask Google how to fix cheese not sticking to pizza, it politely suggests adding an 1/8 cup of glue. You see, it pulled such a suggestion from a Reddit comment without quite the intellect to know it was all a silly joke. Still, the internet being the internet, one journalist thought she should at least give the AI recipe a go. Good. But do you know what does go well? Liking and subscribing to this channel, and short goodbyes.